So my name is Mark Wayne II with the Champions Real Estate Team here at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services and Ambassador Real Estate Company. Joining me today is Russ Williams as we try to jump in here every single week, give you a rundown of what's going on in the real estate market. But like I said, quick tip today is property condition disclosure statement. So by law, you as a buyer you will get one of those, have to sign off on one of those prior to entering into that purchase contract as a seller, making sure you fill that out accurately and to the best of your knowledge. I look at those that they are a great opportunity for that seller to disclose anything and everything they know about the property so that that buyer can make an educated decision on when they're making an offer on that house, on the property, and those type of things there. So how I utilize those is some people just, check it off. Well, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to scare any buyers away. Well, it's important in my mind and my 18 years of experience, I'm sure with Russ's experience, because he sees those as well sometimes, is that the more stuff that's on there is the more items that seller is actually taking care of when something breaks in their house. It's just, a laundry list of items that's, hey, if it broke, you maintained it. Also, from a seller's perspective, you can use that as a negotiation tool, is that, if there are deferred maintenance items on there, put that on there. That I had an example where I had a deck on a Hearthstone home that was original to when it was built in 2007. I think we sold it in, was it 2021? That time frame. So it was an old deck, and the decks, if you have a Hearthstone home or bought a Hearthstone home, and when they built them, I built one. They use the treated lumber. It doesn't last as long as what like a cedar deck would if you stain it and keep it maintained. It had split peeling boards a little bit. We disclosed that in the property condition disclosure statement. We priced it appropriate, knowing it was going to be an $8,000 to $10,000 deck. Houses were selling for $290. We needed, carpet, paint, some of those, interior items. We listed, I think, at $265. So well below what the, market rate was going for those houses that had taken care of or updated those items. We got an offer that came in with multiple offers, got crazy. Buyers got emotional, bid it up. In the home inspection, they came back and said, we want an $8,000 credit. I'm like, whoa, we disclosed that to you prior to writing that contract. You knew that information. You should have made your offer accordingly. And so that's something that is why it is important to disclose everything, and especially what I want to say, coordinate it with your pricing based off of that deferred maintenance items like a deck that needs to be replaced. My client's like, Mark, that was my spring project. Unfortunately, I got job change. I'm moving out of the city, and things of that sort. So I'm not gonna take the time to do it here in the middle of February to put a new deck on. Let's price the house accordingly, and that's what we did. And we priced it appropriately, got multiple offers on it, and it was $20,000 above our asking price. And I told my client, we're playing with $20,000 of house's money for all intents and purposes, And so again, it's that education factor with that seller. And then on a buying side, when I'm working with my buyers, I'm like, hey, it needs a new deck. Yes, they disclose it. Hey, they've priced it appropriately. Let's don't get in a bidding war and pay retail price for this thing when we should be paying wholesale or deferred maintenance item price where they have it priced appropriately. And that, again, that's that education of the agent having a fiduciary responsibility to you as their client to do what's in their best interest, not paying top dollar for that house at $290, knowing it needs a new deck, it needs carpet, it needs paint. So you got $10,000 on the deck. You probably got another 5 to 10 on the, the carpet paint stuff in that side. So you're 20 there. So that's how we appropriately priced it. And if I had a buyer in that situation, I'm like, hey, you get it at 270, maybe pay a little bit above that 265. You got sweat equity. You can put the deck in when you want to put that deck in, and so I guess this is probably longer than a quick tip, but anyways, that's kind of what we're looking at for what's going on that side of it. But yeah, as we look through here, let's jump in here and get the numbers here for you. Let me share my screen with you. There we go. Share. Make it a little bigger so you guys can see it. All right, so as we look here, we had basically exactly 700 new listings that went live in the last 7 days. Last week, I believe it was like 653. So that number went up. Our new contracts written, so the buyer activity, that was at 400 even. Last week, guys, we got a couple new even numbers, which is odd, on that side. Funny it's even, but it's odd, right? Funny there. Anyways, so 391. So we're steady on our buyer activity. Our new inventory is picking up a little bit, which people are back from summer vacations. Hey, let's put the house on the market before the kids go back to school. Then we can show it when they're in school, those type of things, getting that ball rolling. 485 new happy new homeowners in that side. So what does that mean on that new listings? That basically bumped us into like a neutral market. So we were at 2.8 or 2.7 months supply of inventory. So 3 is about that neutral. So we just kind of tipped the scale a little bit more, move that little red dot there across more to the neutral side where it's a more balanced market. And that's good for buyers, sellers in that side. So obviously inventory is loosening up a little bit, expanding in that regards. So that's kind of what we're seeing in that regard. So what does that mean? You don't have more houses to choose from. Your leverage is improving. You don't necessarily have to jump. When they say jump, they don't have to say how high. And negotiation room, is obviously may grow in there. From a seller's perspective, obviously buyers have more choices. So you got to have that house ready. You got to price it competitively. Again, that's where it comes down to. So that competition's increasing. So, you got to make your house stand out. So again, like deferred maintenance items, it doesn't matter what your neighbor's house sold for, 3 months ago. That was a different market than what we are in now. And so that's what you have to look at working with an agent. Here, Champions Real Estate Team, that's what we're doing. We're going to give you those playbooks of what are the plays. Sure, you want to list it at your house. My goal, and any agent typical goal, most of them will tell you, my goal is to maximize, your take home, and net you the most amount. Well, you know what we do here at Champions? We also net you the most amount of eyeballs. We net you the most amount of prospective buyers at your house. That's the other key thing that a lot of agents forget is, oh, I want to maximize your equity. I want to maximize how much money. Absolutely. The more money you make on your house, the more money us as agents make on as a house. Everybody wins in that situation. But if we're overshooting that pricing, we're not netting you. We're not maximizing the number of eyeballs that are on your house, because that buyer pool isn't going to come up and look at that house and go, we'll wait for them to come down because those sellers are being unrealistic. So you're going to miss out on those potential buyers that may compete for your house and in turn not maximize your equity there. So I guess that's kind of my rundown of what's gone on in the real estate market, in the last week, probably a little more than a little long-winded than we usually are. But I know Russ was, we had numbers came out and things of that sort. So he'll go over all the numbers on the mortgage side. So what do we got, buddy?
Mortgage rates are basically trading sideways. We haven't seen a lot of change. They might be mildly improved from where they were a couple of weeks ago. We are continuing to watch. Are we going to have another peace deal? This has been on again, off again. We did see that the non-farm payroll report, which was released on the first Friday of the month would have been for the month of July, came in below expectations. That's favorable for mortgage rates. At the same time, we saw retail inflation numbers come in this morning right at expectations. So we'll be watching wholesale inflation tomorrow and later this month. The personal consumption expenditures report, which is the Fed's favorite measure of inflation. Keep in mind, at the last few meetings, several Fed members have been wanting to vote to increase short-term rates, but this weakness in the jobs market, if it carries through to another month, and if we see the personal consumption expenditures report come in a week later in the month of August, those will both likely play favorable, and we could see mortgage rates improve a little bit. Having said that, though, Mark, that increased inventory, we are seeing more buyers winning bids with some seller help, seller paying some cost. But if we see rates move down much, we'll see more buyers come off the fence, and that could change that dynamic again. So stay tuned, but the Mark's plan is spot on. Get out there right now and look, because if we do see rates come down, we'll see more buyers come off the sideline. That will put upward pressure on rates and make it harder to win those concessions.
Yeah, and what we see now is this time of year it settles down until basically, those school age, parents and things like that that are getting ready to get out there, they're getting their schedules in place. I mean, like for us personally, we're trying to figure out what night softball is going to be on. We still haven't figured out what day of the week that's going to fall on. And so a lot of things are on hold right now, I feel, for a lot of buyers. Like you said, if rates start improving, with numbers coming out and that sort, and then as the buyer's mentality shifts and says, all right, we're ready to start rocking and rolling. And then you even I have a lot of people this time of year, well, we're going to think about in spring. Well, let's get a game plan together now, and let's get in front of Russ or lender your choice to basically get a game plan and say, hey, if that right house pops up in October, let's jump on it when there's not as many spring buyers. And that $500,000 house in October, maybe 515, 510, 525, depending on what the market's doing, at that time. We don't have a crystal ball. We do know what's going on now in the market because we track the numbers, but historically over my 18 years, and Russ been a little longer than I have, we've see these cycles come and go. And it's, again, it doesn't matter to me what house you buy. I just want you to buy the right house for you. And it doesn't matter to me what time that you buy that house. I want the timing to be right for you. And the best way to do that is have that information, have a playbook, have a scouting report of what everybody else is doing out there in the marketplace, and get ahead of it. And that's the best thing, whether that's selling your house, whether that's buying a house, that's how I operate. We operate here. So if you have questions, love to sit down with you, get a game plan together, and rock and roll with it. So that's all I got for today. Sorry, it's probably a little long-winded than most of the other ones, but we like to get the information out to you. I love chatting, so I can talk till the cows come home. So, but anyways, cool. Take care, and welcome back to school, everybody. I think some people are starting this week. My kids are starting next week, so get out there and rock and roll with it. So enjoy the last couple of days of summer if that's what you got left, and I'll go from there.